Hi guys, the Metal Maniac back again, and this video I'm going to be reviewing the album From Beyond by Massacre. This is a very underrated album by a very underrated death metal band. Um, Now, this band only released 3 albums. This one in 1991, second one was called Promise from 1994, I think. And then their latest one, Back From Beyond, in 2014. And apparently they were supposed to release an album this year, but of course the pandemic happened and everything shut down, so that probably wouldn't be released until next year. Anyway, this is really the only album that's of any significance because the other 2 albums suck. Promise doesn't even sound like a death metal album. Like, the vocals are death metal, but it sounds too, I don't know, it sounds off. Like, it doesn't sound very well. And then Back From Beyond is just bogged down by horrible modern production, and Cam Lee is a non-vocal. Oh yeah, Cam Lee's the vocalist on this first album. He's not on, and he's on the second album, but he's not on Back From Beyond. I think he was already in a different band, and they got someone else who basically is just a George Fisher wannabe. He sounds exactly like George Fisher and almost kind of looks like him too. But yeah, so they don't have their original singer now. The replacement is George Fisher wannabe, and the album that they just released not too long ago, their Back From Beyond album, is pretty terrible. But yeah, so this is the only album that really matters, unless they release something good in the future. If they get Cam Lee back on vocals. But yeah. Anyway, this album is great. The album artwork is done by Ed Repka, who did the album artwork for the first 3 Death albums. Scream Bloody Gore, Leprosy, and Spiritual Healing. So he did this, and I think he did an artwork for one of the Megadeth albums. But anyway, great album artwork. Basically demons sort of falling out of a vortex or something, or floating out of a vortex. And then the back, you can't really see the artwork on the back because track listings on there, and the picture of the band. So the band consists of Terry Butler on bass, Rick Ross on guitar, Bill Andrews on drums, and Cam Lee on vocals. Now, Cam Lee's an underrated death metal vocalist, like seriously underrated. And he does a great job on this album. So does the rest of the group. Rick Ross, he does a lot of whammy bar stuff. He's known for a lot of the whammy bar stuff, and I know a lot of people are annoyed by that, but I really like it. Anyway, interesting fact is that Rick Ross, Terry Butler, and Bill Andrews, before they were, I guess they formed Massacre. Massacre was already formed by them earlier on, but before this album came out, they were on the Death album Leprosy. And of course the artist who did Leprosy did the artwork for this one. But yeah, that's kind of neat how they were on 2 different albums that were very influential to death metal. Yeah, so the artwork. This was released in 1991. And I don't know how well it did back then, seeing as the band hasn't really gained that much of recognition. They're still pretty underground. Like, seriously, like, you really have to search for information. Like, here's the thing. Most metal bands, even a lot of death metal bands, you could just type in the band name and it would immediately come up. Where this, you have to type Massacre the band, and even then, that's not the first thing that comes up. But you're gonna have to like search for it a little bit. But Yeah, so they're still not very well known. Like they're not playing in big venues or anything. They're just kind of in very small select areas that they play. Um, but let's get to the track listing. First off is Dawn of Eternity. It starts off with this sort of just Bill Andrews just tapping the cymbals, and while that's happening, there's this sort of grand sort of scale, sort of operatic noise going on. It's not really chanting. I don't know how to describe it, but like that's going on while Bill Andrews just sort of tapping the cymbals, and then the guitar kicks in, and it goes off from there. Really awesome song. Not one of my favorites on the album, but still really, really good. Cryptic Realms. This one's really good too. There's a lot of really good riffs in these songs. Um, Not very memorable guitar solos for the most part, but the riffs are very, very good. But yeah, Cryptic Realms is awesome. Biohazard. This one I really like. I saw footage of them playing this song back not too long ago. I think in 2013. But yeah, it's awesome. Love the riff in it. From Beyond. This one's really cool. I love Kim Lee does from time to time these awesome sort of background evil laughs. Like you have the main song going on, in the very background you hear these faint like and it's really cool. And I can't remember which songs he does it on. Does it on, but once in a while in this album he does these awesome just shrieks, but they're not like super high banty shrieks, like really high pitched, like say like Ripper Owens or Rob Halford, but they're more of like a blood curdling, semi death metal shriek. I know it's hard to describe, but he does a really good job. Um, and let's see. Defeat Remains is my favorite song from the album. It's probably the catchiest. The riff is awesome. Succubus. This one is the second to last of the original track listing. I'll get to what I mean about that in a few minutes. This is a really cool song. A lot more death metal than thrashy. Really, really cool. Symbolic Immortality is awesome. It's the last of the original tracks on the album. Oh no, Corpse Grinder is, sorry. Corpse Grinder is the last one. Corpse Grinder is awesome. Bonus tracks. Now, the bonus tracks came from the original EP. I think before this album was released, they released an EP. Those consist of Inhuman Condition, Plains of Eternity, Warhead, and Provoked Accuser. Inhuman Condition is not that good. Plains of Insanity isn't that good. But Warhead, what a song! It starts off with now Ken Lee doesn't do his like usual death metal vocals. He does sort of a waily like not really screech, but he does like this. He sounds like a man just gone insane. He doesn't do like, it's hard to describe what his vocals are in this particular song, but they're very interesting. I really really like them. He starts off in the song like this just blood curdling screaming like he's being murdered. But yeah, it's really cool. There's a little cool riff in it. Yeah, Warhead's awesome. And then the last one is Provoked Accuser, which is awesome. Not as good as Warhead, but still really, really good. One thing to note about this album and the sound, the first like songs 1 to 6 are very, very thrashy in nature. Like they're very thrashy they're thrashy, but they're death metal, but very, very thrashy. They're more towards the thrashy side than death metal side, even though they're death metal. And then songs 7 to 11 are a lot more death metal. Like they're a lot more geared towards the death metal sound at the time. Then songs 12 and 13 go back to the more thrashy side. And a really interesting thing about this album that I didn't really notice until Okay, so a while ago, one of my younger cousins was hanging out with me, and I put this on for him because I really want to show him this album, and I put it on for him, and he's like, all these sounds kind of sound like they would fit on the soundtrack to the first two Doom games, and I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, seriously, these songs sound like they would fit very well on the first two Doom games as soundtracks. Like if you take off the vocals, they fit really, really well. But yeah, overall, a very, very underrated and underappreciated album by a very underrated and underappreciated death metal band. It's a perfect album. This is my first 10 out of 10 rating on this channel. It's a 10 out of 10. But yeah, it's awesome. So that was my review of From Beyond by Massacre. Once again, I will mention that I'm going to take a 2-day break from uploading videos just because of my work schedule. One of those days is an evening shift, and I'll be extremely exhausted after that. So yeah, heads up that I might take a couple 2 or 3 days break from time to time just because of my work schedule. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.